guys know, I usually take Sundays off from streaming because, I have a life too. And no, actually, that's not true. I don't have a life at all. I don't have a life at all. All I do all day, every day is work. I am a workaholic. It's the way it goes. But Sundays, I usually don't stream because, it's kind of nice to have a day without having to put on makeup or be on video or things like that. I do other work. I still have a newsletter that I need to write for my Substack that was supposed to go out yesterday, but it's going to go out today because I wrote something else yesterday. And the thing that I wrote yesterday, instead of writing the newsletter that I was supposed to write, is what we're going to read today. Now, I was going to wait to do this tomorrow. Side note, I'm actually really proud of this essay. I think this essay is fucking great. This is some of the best writing that I've ever done about how cancel culture works, what to expect when you're under attack from the woke mob. I'm really, really, really proud of this work. I think it's really good. The link to the essay is pinned to the top of the chat on YouTube. If you are watching on Odyssey or Rockfin or Rumble or Gitter or anywhere else, you can find the link to my Substack in the description below the video, or you can get to it by going to carlin.substack.com. It is going to be right in the center of the page. Trust me, you aren't going to be able to miss it. But I was going to wait till tomorrow because when I wrote this essay, which is mostly, I would say, about cancel culture, but utilizing Tim Pool as an example, I was actually being really nice in this essay. I feel like I was really, 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 really generous to Tim in this essay. Because I think that Tim places a lot of pressure on himself. I thought that maybe deep down inside he still had a nickel of integrity somewhere. So when I wrote this essay last night between the hours of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m., I didn't say the thing that I really wanted to say because I was being nice in the essay. And the thing that I really wanted to say, if I was not being my best, most empathetic, most kind self, is that Tim Pool is a fucking coward. Tim Pool's a coward. He is a coward. I didn't say it last night in this essay. And I wasn't going to say it. It was not my plan to say that Tim Pool was a coward at all in any way until today, when I discovered that not one, not two, but all three parts of the Eliza Blue articles have been removed from Timcast. Now, were they removed? Oh, hey, Lisa. Lisa, I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here. I was thinking about texting you the other day, Lisa, and I was like, no, I don't want to bother her with drama. The essays that Shane Cashman wrote were not removed due to inaccuracy. They were removed based on the update that they themselves have posted on this website due to the fact that the gonzo journalism style of this series was misperceived by readers. The series in its entirety has been removed. We apologize for any inconvenience. The essays were not removed because they were wrong. The essays were not removed because they were factually inaccurate. The essays were not removed because they were not an accurate profile of what happened to Eliza Blue, which is, at the end of the day, what we should all be concerned about. The essays were removed because the gonzo journalism style of the series was misperceived by readers. Tim Pool is a fucking coward. And I'm going to tell you what. Let me tell you what I think happened in all of this. Because I know for an absolute fact that Cassandra Fairbanks stood behind that work. I know for an absolute fact that Shane Cashman stood behind that work. Now, there may have been some issues with some of the details in part 3, which I believe that Shane Cashman was going to do an update. But not a single one of those details had anything to do with Eliza Blue's story. Not a single thing that he may have not gotten 100% in part 3 had anything to do with Eliza Blue's story at all. And so there was no reason at all to pull down the first 2 articles in this series. No reason at all, except for Tim Pool is a coward. So here's what I think happened. In the essay we're going to read, How Tim Pool Got Canceled by His Own Audience, I talk about cancel culture in general. I talk about how it works. I talk about what you experience. And then I used the case specifically of Tim getting canceled by his own audience in the last week. And yes, Tim absolutely did get canceled by his own audience in the last week. And I used it as an example to say, here is what happens when you cultivate an audience filled with the most toxic people on the internet. Now, not all of Tim's audience is toxic. That is not the point that I'm making, and I reiterate that in the essay as well. But there is a segment of Tim's audience that is extremely toxic. There is a segment of his audience that is extremely toxic, and those people control the rest of his audience. And they control the rest of his audience because they are the most vocal portion of his audience, which I explain in this essay. Now, what I did not anticipate when I posted this late last night was that Tim was not only going to cave and apologize to them, which he did last week, which is the initial point in which he bent the knee. I would bet all the money in my bank account that what happened in this case is not only did Tim bend the knee last week by apologizing, but Tim told Shane and Cassandra, I don't give a fuck, take them down, I'm sick of dealing with this, and he demanded that the essays be removed. I don't know that for sure. I'm hypothesizing, but the fact that the note on the removal says the gonzo journalism style of this series was misperceived by readers. That doesn't tell me that Cassandra Fairbanks or Shane Cashman are saying we got it wrong. That to me says you all read in our comments over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and Tim got sick of fucking dealing with it, and he pulled the articles down to give you what he wanted because he bent the knee to the cancel mob because Tim Pool is a fucking coward. I'm not going to ask Shane or Cassandra what happened. I'm not going to do it because they wouldn't tell me anyway. And I don't want to intrude on the relationship that they have with him. So I want to be very clear. I'm not being told to say this by anyone. I am doing this because I believe that Tim Pool is a fucking coward. And I think it's gross. And I think it's really, 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 really disappointing. Really disappointing. But guess what? If you go to this article, and I'm going to read the whole thing. I just posted a podcast with it today, but I'm going to read the whole thing. But if you go to this article and you scroll down to the bottom, the internet never forgets, Timmy. I have all 3 parts of the article archived. So those articles are not gone. You can still access them. The link is at the bottom of this article, all 3 links. You can access them on archive.org. just because Tim is getting his panties in the wad over the fact that the internet is rebelling against him, but it's not the whole internet. It's just the most toxic part of his audience that are trying to control him. You can still access everything. And this is an example, guys, of why we archive everything. I know that I am not always the best about archiving things. I quite frankly get lazy, as I think that that a lot of other people do as well when it comes to archiving things. But I think let this be a lesson to us. Archive everything. Archive everything. If it's important, take 2 seconds, make sure you put it in the archive. That way, if someone like Tim Pool is an epic fucking coward and says, pull it off the internet, it'll still be there. So the link again to this specific article is pinned to the top of the chat in YouTube. It's also front and center on my Substack right now. But we're going to read the article. And again, this article is not actually just about Tim. This article is actually mostly about cancel culture in general. It's called Anatomy of a Woke Cancel Mob, or How Tim Pool Got Canceled by His Audience, a warning for content creators of the future about audience cultivation. Your audience will reflect your values. So I didn't write this essay to rag on Tim. Again, I was actually pretty kind to Tim in this essay, because I can understand being under mob attack. I've been under mob attack before. I understand what it's like. It sucks. It's not fun. But what I don't forgive rather, is cowardice. Jen, hey Dr. K, I hope you're having a good Sunday. I am Jen. I've been getting a lot of work done today. All right, guys, mount that like button if you think that Tim Pool is a coward. I normally don't stream on Sundays, but I do normally stream every other day of the week. We start live at 5 on Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And on Saturdays, we go at 6 p.m. And on Sundays, I rest, but today is a special day. And I'm not watching the Super Bowl either, because I don't care. I don't even know how football works. I don't care about football unless like the Patriots win, and then I care about football for like 2 days, and then I stop caring about football again. And only because, not even because I really like the Patriots that much, but because, God, in the Tom Brady years with the Patriots, it was so fun every time they won a Super Bowl, because everyone else hated the Patriots. So for that like day and a half after they won the Super Bowl, I'd like don the Patriots hat and I totally like rep the Patriots, even though I don't care, because it was so fun to trigger people over it. Anyway, let's read this article. And I've got a podcast version too up on the site. Woke cancel mobs rarely develop organically. They're created. Sometimes they're created inadvertently, and sometimes it's a more deviously focused effort. Since cancellation is one of the most often utilized tools of the woke on both the political right and the left, and since we're currently witnessing one of the most vicious cancellations I've ever seen with the cancellation of Eliza Blue, it's a good opportunity to discuss how these cancel mobs are created. Then I want to zoom in with a closer look at the unanticipated consequences of appealing to the worst possible people on the internet, their propensity to turn on their leader. To be very clear, I'm not blaming Tim Pool directly for planning and executing the cancellation of Eliza Blue. It started long before he was involved, and it wasn't his fault. And in general, I do not believe he anticipated, desired, or purposefully created an audience to destroy people, least of all himself. I'm writing this to treat it as a warning for future content creators. When you're not purposeful in the development of your audience, it can have unintended consequences. And guys, just before we get too far into this article, I see a lot of new names in the chat today, and I'm welcome. I'm really glad you're here. Maybe you just don't normally get the chance to catch me live, and so I'm glad you got the chance to catch me today. Just as a reminder, I have 2 rules in my chat. Unlike Tim, I do not have an unmoderated chat because I don't want the lunatics to run the asylum on my channel. One of the reasons that Tim is in the position he's in right now, and we're going to talk about it in the course of this article, is because Tim allows the lunatics to run the asylum on his channel. The toxic segment of Tim's audience, the small toxic minority of his audience, are the most vocal of his audience. Therefore, they have power over his audience, and he allows it to occur. On my channel, I don't do that because I have rules in my chat. I want it to be a nice experience for me. I want it to be a nice experience for everyone else. So, rule number 1, don't be a dick. Look, average person has got it summed up expertly. Rule number 1, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I don't really care if you insult Tim. His feelings are immaterial to me. But don't insult me. Don't insult other people in the chat. You can disagree. You're allowed to disagree. But if you disagree, do it in a way where you're not insulting people. Like, those two things can happen. You can have a disagreement and not hurl insults. I know it's a crazy thought, but I promise you it's true. Rule number 2, no whining. If I tell you to stop doing something, don't whine, don't complain, don't say, I'm not doing that thing you told me to stop doing, because you are doing that thing I told you to stop doing, because if you weren't doing the thing I told you to stop doing, I wouldn't be telling you to stop doing it. Just fucking relax. I don't want to hear it. I'm 41 years old. I don't have kids because I don't want to hear whining all the time. I exodus people who whine at me all the time from my channel because I can't take it. I don't have the patience for it. So that's it. Number 1, don't be a dick. Number 2, no whining. If you follow those rules, we're going to get along just fine. All right. Well, yes, beer is always acceptable on my channel. The anatomy of a cancellation. I've been canceled at least half a dozen times in the last 3 years. I define cancellation as when thousands of people mob you, usually online, but it can spill over into the real world too, for daring to speak an opinion that they disagree with, or if you fail to adhere to their vision of a moral purity test. See, this is, guys, this is going to count as breaking rule number 1 of the chat. And because this asshole broke rule number 1 of the chat, he's now going to get banned. See? This is how we keep the chat nice. Oh! This person is actually threatening me with physical violence. So what's going to happen is that this person is going to get reported to the police. And that's why I'm putting it on the screen right now, so that I can go and report it to the police later. But this person is also going to get banned from the chat. See how that works? It's so nice, isn't it? I define cancellation as when thousands of people mob you, usually online, but it can spill over into the real world too. Did I not put like a subscriber limit on this? Hang on, I'm getting a ton of trolls. Let me just check something real quick. No, people can subscribe. Okay. These are actually my subscribers. All right. Cancellation does not mean you must be deplatformed or lose your bank account, although I have been deplatformed multiple times due to the focused efforts of my harassers. Social ostracization is just as powerful a weapon. When the political left cancels you, they're much more likely to go after your bank account. When the political right cancels you, they are much more likely to use social ostracization and personal attacks. That's not to say that people of either political persuasion can't use the other's tactics. I'm simply suggesting a more likely preference of what they're inclined to do if given the opportunity to form a mob. And each one leads directly back to their core values and motivations. The political left is more likely to go after money because their primary goal is to gain power over another human being to get them to bend the knee to their will, because gaining power over others is one of their primary goals. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with this, just going to direct you to this article on my Substack. It's called The Four Primary Goals of the Woke Left. I'm going to pop a link in there. If you want more information about the four primary goals of the woke left, you can read this article. Too Long Didn't Read is their four primary goals are gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. So and gaining power is a big one. They try to achieve that goal in almost every single tactic that they do. So if you want more information, you can read that article. The political right is much more likely to make personal attacks because they are desperate for approval and acceptance, as well as obsessed with appearance. So they believe that social approval matters more than money and power, and making you, quote unquote, look bad to convince you have something to be embarrassed of is considered a victory. Thank you for the super chat. I'm a fan of what Tim has built, but I've put up with Tim's fragile ego due to his guests. I'm tapped out now, coupled with the Eliza. I don't believe Eliza Blue's grifting. I'm sorry. I mean, thank you for the money. I'll keep the money. I'm not giving it back to you or anything. But if you think that I'm going after Eliza Blue, just the opposite, my friend. I think she's telling the truth. But thanks for the money. I appreciate it. When cancel mobs start, all it takes is one primary instigator of the group with a group of lieutenants to help them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Lisa. Like when Tim said to you, I'm a fucking millionaire. That's exactly right. Exactly. When cancel mob starts, all it takes is one primary instigator with a group of lieutenants to help them. It starts with a spark. You did something that hurts the fragile sensibilities of the primary instigator. It could be anything from something as small as looking at them the wrong way to saying something they find offensive to you being more popular than they are or getting more attention than they do. It really could be anything. And oftentimes, you don't see it coming until it's already begun. So, guys, if you have questions about why I support Eliza Blue, I'm going to direct you to the 4 other streams that I've done on it in the last week. There is no doubt in my mind that Eliza Blue is telling the truth, and I don't say that as a friend of hers. I'm not a friend of hers. I've spoken to the woman like 2 times in my life. And if I see anyone attacking her in this chat, I'm going to consider you attacking victims of human trafficking, and I'm going to block your ass because I don't allow that shit. You guys have taken over Tim Pool's audience with your bullshit whining. You're not going to take over mine. That's what this article is all about. You are not going to bring the toxicity that you have brought to Tim Pool's audience into my audience. And if that means that I have a smaller audience for the rest of my life, I am perfectly fine with that scenario. The cancel mob is not likely to come after you unless they perceive you to be having some success that they themselves are not having. Otherwise, there would be no reason to cancel you. So the spark is that you've had a victory. The result is that they perceive they slapped you down to size. They may even say you're full of yourself, have a big head, need to be put in your place, etc. In order to achieve their goal of making you suffer for their amusement, they will find a fatal flaw, a mistake, either real or contrived, that you have made in the past that they can exploit to use against you in order to achieve their primary aim, attacking your money, attacking your reputation, or a combination of both. The primary instigator releases the information, which is always twisted to be interpreted in the most negative possible way, and then uses their lieutenants to help them spread the information around the internet. Yes, TJ, they're disappearing because they're getting banned from the chat. That's why they're disappearing. I am unapologetic about banning toxicity in my space. If you don't follow the rules of my chat, you're not going to be here very long. Their goal is to get coverage from influencers with large accounts, useful idiots, that need content to outrage their audience each day to keep them clicking. That's how they make their money, by building outrage and then using it to generate likes, clicks, shares, watch hours, and super chats. The useful idiots have no incentive to present the clickbait they've just acquired with any nuance. The more outrage they generate, the more money they make. And so what has already been presented badly will now be twisted to be worse through this game of telephone. And all of a sudden, you have thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of people galvanized against a single person as the most evil person to ever walk the face of the earth. Jared, it's really good to see you. I love your profile photo. It looks so good. I hope you're doing well. Mike, the rules of my chat are simple. Don't be a dick, no whining. Don't be a dick means you don't insult me, you don't insult other people in the chat. No whining means you don't whine. You don't look like the whining type to me. I hope I'm right about that. That's it. Don't be a dick, no whining. They inundate their feeds, DMs, comment section, email inboxes, and even their phone numbers, demanding answers or accountability for their perceived transgressions. Addresses are doxed, death threats are made. They may even drag your friends and family into it. The goal is nothing less than making the target's life a living, breathing hell. Their goal is either to do one of the following three things: force the target to bend the knee to the will of the mob to make the pain go away. If this happens, the target will receive a brief reprieve, but they will always be at the whim of the mob. To be really clear, Tim Pool is in this one. The mob won. Tim Pool may have been in this one for like 2 days. We'll talk about that one in a second. But Tim Pool is currently in this one. Tim Pool is a coward because Tim Pool bent the knee to the mob in order to make the pain stop. And so now, because Tim has bent the knee to the mob, he is getting a nice little reprieve. The trolls are rejoicing. Tim pulled down the articles. Tim pulled down the articles. We were right all along. No, you weren't right. You just formed a woke cancel mob. And the useful idiot that you happen to target, which is Tim in this circumstance, decided, I don't want to deal with your bullshit anymore. And so he gave the mob what they wanted. If they're not getting the target to bend the knee, they want to make the target believe they're going crazy in order to get them to react irrationally, so they can take any reaction and twist it out of context to continue to attack, thus creating more pain. Tim was in this one for a while when he told his audience to fuck off, which I believe was exactly the right thing to do, to be really clear. When you have a woke cancel mob coming after you, the only answer in order to maintain yourself and your integrity is to tell them to fuck off. So Tim did that. He did the right thing. And I said that at the time. I said that on a stream later that night. It was absolutely the correct thing to do, to tell the people who were continuing to come at him, demanding that he say the words that they wanted him to say, to fuck off. That doesn't mean you're telling your whole audience to fuck off. And if people can't understand the difference between those two things, then I don't know what to tell you. Yes, precisely. It was a woke cancel mob. It was a woke cancel mob that was demanding that Tim say the words they wanted him to say. It was never about censorship. None of these people care about censorship. It was only about power. It was only about control. They demanded that Tim say the words they wanted him to say. When he didn't follow their demands, he told them to fuck off. They got worse, and now Tim has bent the knee to their demands. Congratulations. Everyone that's been haranguing and cajoling that asshole for the last few weeks is in a woke cancel mob. You don't care about censorship. Don't fucking front. None of you care about censorship. You only care about gaining power over other people to force them to say the words that you want them to say. If they can't get either of those two goals done, they want to silence the target by getting them to delete their accounts, leave the internet, or even off themselves entirely. Yes, the mob would celebrate if they offed themselves entirely. That's how fucked up these people are. Most of the people in the cancel mob have never even heard of the person they're canceling. The cancel mob is their introduction. They don't really care about the person and they don't care about the transgressions. They only care about feeding the outrage addiction. And if you have questions about outrage addiction, oh, look, I have an article for you. It's part of my Woke Mind series on my Substack, Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. It's called They're Addicted to Outrage. I just popped the link in the chat on YouTube. If you're watching on one of the other sites, you can go to the Woke Mind series right up at the top of my Substack, and it'll be right up at the top because it's the latest article in the series. No, Cassandra and I right now have an uneasy truce. It's basically a sign of the apocalypse. I would not say that we're friends, but there is an uneasy truce between us for the moment. And I'm going to be honest, like I actually have a lot of respect for Cassandra because she apologized. Like, I mean, she did. And like, I have mad respect for that. And so I hope that we can continue to have some sort of cordial, like at least not kill each other, like level of relationship. We don't have to talk. We don't have to be best friends, but that'd be pretty quick. Murphy's Pool. Carlin, you blocked too quick. Didn't get a chance to describe how I banged their mom. This is why I adore you, Murphy's Pool. The more influential any single member of the group of this group of unhinged idiots is, the unhinged idiots being the outrage mob, the larger the cancellation has the potential to grow. For example, maybe the primary instigator doesn't have a very large following, but they happen to be best friends with someone who does have a large platform. That single person can make the mob skyrocket in size. The only way to get through a cancellation once it starts is to make the decision to walk through the storm until you reach the other side. Really, Tony? Really? The mob never cared about this? Then why have we been talking about it for over 2 fucking weeks? I agree with you that and by the way, congratulations, Tony, on just shilling Tim Pool's talking points. I mean, you're a good little lieutenant if I've ever seen one. Because you're just shilling his talking points. You understand. You're basically an NPC shilling the talking points of your dear leader. Does that feel good? You're correct that the average person doesn't know who Eliza Blue is, but I know who Eliza Blue is, and I know that Eliza Blue has done the work she says she's doing. I know that because she came and spoke to my community about it privately with no cameras on. So I don't give a flying fuck if the average person on the street knows who she is or not. It makes no difference to me whatsoever. This woman is being smeared and attacked and mobbed all over the internet, and Tim fucking Pool is too fucking cowardly to leave the truth up on his goddamn website. The mob did care about this. Otherwise, the mob would have shut the fuck up about it 2 fucking weeks ago. No, I'm not pulling any punches tonight. I am not. But this is really important, and this is the lesson that Tim Pool didn't learn, and this is why Tim Pool is now beholden to the woke cancel mob that runs his channel. The only way to get through a cancellation once it starts is to make the decision to walk through the storm until you reach the other side. If you surrender, they will own you. If you give up and turn back, they will own you. You must make it through the storm, whether it takes hours, days, weeks, or longer. If you make it through the storm, you will be more powerful than the mob. If you do not, you will forever be at their mercy until you do. Remember, the mob doesn't care about things they claim to. They only care about making you submit to them. Well, rule number 3 on my channel is I can say whatever the fuck I want. I will say whatever the fuck I want. You don't have to like my rules. You also don't have to be in my house. Yeah, the problem is, Travis, they didn't just pull part 3, they pulled parts 1 and 2, which no one had any problem with. That's the problem. I had no problem with them doing updates to part 3 because to be quite frank, I actually did think that the sections he did about the coordinated effort, I thought that could use a little bit of work, if I'm honest about it. But the problem is I don't give actually a flying flip about that section because I cared about the stuff about Eliza Blue much more, and that stuff was all accurate. So what does this have to do with Tim Pool? The thing about Tim Pool is that I really do believe he has positive intentions. The problem is that he makes boneheaded choices. Not all of the time, but enough when it matters. I've talked to multiple people who have worked for Tim, and they've all told me the same thing. When he got COVID, he almost died. And when it passed, he had changed and suddenly was highly focused on expanding his empire as fast as he could, getting as big as possible, as quickly as possible. It was his desire to expand as rapidly as he could that inadvertently led him to cultivating an audience that has been captured by the most vocal, toxic minority. It's a minority that are mostly young men that are inclined to be attracted to the incel or MGTOW communities and alt-right influencers who are angry at their lot in life and who are also bored. That is a dangerous combination. For those who have just joined, the rules are simple. Don't be a dick, no whining, that's it. The reason we have rules in my chat, guys, is I have a community where I know that my regulars in my chat don't actually participate in unmoderated chats. They don't participate in them at all because the unmoderated chats are a free for all of toxicity. And so if some of the people in my community try to go participate in the unmoderated chats, they get absolutely eaten alive by the toxicity. So they don't even try. They may sit back and watch, but they can't participate. I want to create a place where everyone is participating. So we have to have rules. We have to have guidelines. It's the way it goes. If you are a regular in my chat, and I know you're not a psychopath, then you will probably actually have much more leniency with the rules. Because I know that you're not a psychopath. I know that you're probably just joking. But do you guys have any idea how many unhinged lunatics come into my chat just to complain, just to read because they assume it's like every other unmoderated chat? No, we block their asses. We don't need that here. Jen, thank you for the super chat. You'd think after all the swattings Tim and his friends and employees went through, he'd learn not to bend the knee to the mob, or maybe he's going through some existential crisis after COVID. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I maybe he's just tired of it. Maybe he's like, it's not worth it anymore. Fuck it, the mob wins. I don't know. So we've got this, what we've got is this small segment, and again, I'm really emphasizing here. It is a toxic minority segment of Tim's audience that are I'm not meaning to attack men here, but it's just a fact of the matter is that this toxic vocal minority segment is mostly younger men that are inclined to be attracted to the most extreme parts of the internet because they're angry at what they perceive to be oppression against men, and they're also bored. Probably because they don't get out from behind their computer screens. Because if they got out from behind the computer screens and actually went out into the real world and actually, met women in real life and got laid every once in a while, they wouldn't be nearly as angry and they wouldn't be nearly as toxic. But they don't. And that's why they're angry and toxic. And for some reason, Tim Pool is one of the people that they've gravitated to. We're going to talk about that, Robert. Tim Pool attracted this audience through his choice of guests, his choice of topics, his choice of headlines, and his choice of approach, knowing full well that his rapid expansion depended on him appealing to people on the political right who live on the internet, believe Twitter is real life, and are drooling at the possibility of a civil war, and will support anyone who tells them exactly what they want to hear and reinforces the idea that young men are victims of the world. If I'm honest, I believe he was cultivating this audience before he got COVID, but it rapidly expanded afterwards. I'm not suggesting everyone in Tim Pool's audience is toxic. Far from it. The vast majority of people who watch Tim Pool are very fine people. Seriously. But there is a small segment that is incredibly toxic. Maybe 15 to 20%. That's a best guess estimate. I don't know how I would estimate it otherwise, but best guess. I'm also not suggesting that the toxic minority segment don't have some legitimate grievances in the world. But when you allow your entire view of the world to be controlled by your grievances, that's a problem. And I really want to emphasize this, guys, just as a side note. In life, you can always look at things as both as either positive or negative. If you choose, and it is a choice, to look at every single thing that happens to anyone, or that happens to you, or that happens to anyone, but mostly that happens to you, as the most negative possible thing that can possibly happen to you, you are going to have a miserable outlook on life. You're going to be miserable. If you live your life being controlled by your grievances with the world, you are going to be a miserable, toxic person. And it is a choice. Guess what? Life is unfair. I don't know when people stop teaching this to kids. You know what I heard all growing up? Life sucks and then you die. Life is unfair. That's just the way it goes. I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow with shoe boxes for shoes growing up. Like, is this not taught anymore? It's okay to be upset about things that you perceive to be unfair. I'm not saying that you should never be upset about anything. You wouldn't be a human being if you were never upset about anything. However, if you live your life constantly pissed off at all of the perceived wrongs that have been done to you, you will be an angry, toxic person. And by the way, you're going to make yourself sick as well. You'll make yourself physically sick. It's not a good way to live. There's always positive things going on in the world. But if you are making the choice to only focus on the negative, only focus on the worst possible things that you can focus on, you are not leaving any space to see the positive and to enjoy yourself and enjoy your life. Don't live life controlled by your grievances. Sadly, the toxic segment has the most power in his community, even if they are vastly outnumbered by the very fine people. And in the last week, the toxic segment turned against the man who cultivated them, making demands that he was under no obligation to fulfill. So when Tim's audience demanded over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, cover Eliza Blue. Eliza Blue's a grifter. Cover Eliza Blue. Eliza Blue's a grifter. Cover Eliza Blue. Eliza Blue's a grifter. Why are you covering this, Tim? Why are you covering it? Censorship, 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 even though they never cared about censorship. Don't believe a single one of them that says they care about censorship. They do not care about censorship. They only care about gaining power because they are a woke cancel mob, and the only thing the woke cancel mob cares about is gaining power. Not a single one of them care about censorship. But they said they did because it sounded good. Tim, this is censorship. Why aren't you talking about it? It's censorship. Why aren't you talking about it? And when that didn't work, they gave another excuse. And when that didn't work, they gave another excuse. They made demand after demand after demand. At no point was Tim obligated to cover this. At no point was Tim obligated to discuss this. And so he resisted at first, which was the right thing to do. He told them, no, I'm not going to talk about the things you're demanding that I talk about. Because how is this any different than compelled speech? How is, Tim, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this. Why aren't you talking about it? Why are you talking about it? Why are you talking about it? Why are you talking about it? How is that any different than demanding to compel someone's pronouns? Listen, man, there was a story right before the election about Don Bulldog hoaxing an attack and then lying about it nationally in conservative media that I really wanted Tim to cover. I made sure Tim had all the materials. I did streams about it trying to get Tim to cover it. I really wanted Tim to cover that story. I was quite frankly pissed off when he didn't. And that was when I shut off Tim Pool in my head because I believed that it showed that he had no integrity if he wasn't going to cover the story. However, I also knew that Tim had no obligation to cover what I wanted him to cover. He had no obligation to. I made my case. I made sure he had the materials. I made a lot of noise on the internet. Kino Reviews did as well. We spammed the ever-loving fuck out of Tim. But at the end of the day, I was always the first to say, Tim doesn't have to cover this. He doesn't have to. He is not obligated to me. He is not obligated to this story. He does not have to. And then you go on with your day. You don't whine and complain about it for weeks. For weeks. Hang on. So what? Who cares? I didn't mean to display that, but Jesus Christ. I meant to block someone. Hang on. So, just because you want someone to talk about something doesn't mean they're under any obligation to you. And Tim never had any obligation to talk about this. And so he resisted. He told his audience no. He told them to fuck off. That was exactly the right thing to do, by the way. Exactly and precisely the right thing. But what Tim should have known. Oh, yeah, bro. I've lost so much respect I have been unfollowing these influencers left, right, and center. I've been unsubscribing from it. And this is, I'm not one where if you don't talk about the things I want you to talk about, I'm going to unfollow you or unsubscribe. Normally, I just don't care. But this one has really burned me. Really, 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 really burned me. And I've been unfollowing a lot of people. Anyway, what Tim should have known when he told his audience to fuck off is that they were going to retaliate because they were a woke cancel mob. If you tell the woke, maybe Tim didn't realize that he was facing down a woke cancel mob. Maybe Tim didn't realize that woke can exist on the right just like it exists on the left. Maybe he didn't realize what was happening, but if he had looked at it from a detached perspective, he would have understood that he was facing down a woke cancel mob and that when he told them no and he told them to fuck off, they were only going to get worse. He should have planned for that. And he should have said to them, just like I've said to the woke mob on many, many occasions when they've tried to cancel me, he should have said, I don't give a fuck what you say. I don't give a fuck what you do. I am not bending the knee to you. You can re all the way home. You can inundate my comments every fucking day. You can send me as many super chats as you like complaining, and I will collect the money and I will be happy about it. And I will go buy myself a fancy dinner and a $5,000 bottle of whiskey, and I will drink it in your honor as you're complaining and crying in your mom's basement. That's what he should have done. That's exactly what he should have done. Because that is how you handle a woke mob. You look them in the eye, you stare them down, and you say, no. You have no power over me. And when you do that, eventually, they're going to go away. Eventually, they're going to move on to some other outrage. And then you know that you have power over the mob and there is nothing that they can do to control you. But Tim didn't realize that he was staring down a woke cancel mob. And so they got worse, as they were always going to if he didn't relent. They made greater demands this time to punish him for his insolence. Nick says Tim bent the knee and now his audience owns him. That's exactly right. Tim bent the knee and now and it's not even his audience. It is the most toxic vocal minority of his audience. They own his ass. Their goal was to drive him crazy, get him to quit, or force him down on his knees. These were the goals, and achieving any of them would do. Then he bent. He retreated in the middle of the storm. He apologized. He gave them what they wanted. That should have been gave them what they wanted, not he wanted. He retreated. Now he's at their mercy until he makes it to the other side. As long as he stays on the internet, this will happen again. It is only a matter of when. I don't think Tim needs a PR person. I think Tim needs an executive coach. Those are two different things. I do not think that he needs a PR person. Tim Pool's audience absolutely overlapped with the audience canceling Eliza Blue, for which Brittany Venti, Chrissy Mayer, Blair White, and Candace Owens, and so many others were all useful idiots. And there's no doubt that they targeted Tim as a useful idiot to spread their message as part of their cancellation. He refused until he didn't. We all watched Tim Pool's audience cancel Tim Pool, hammering him until they finally forced him onto his knees to kiss the ring and meet the mob's demands. How an audience got Tim Pool to kneel. There's nothing wrong with wanting to grow an audience. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be famous. There's nothing wrong with wanting to grow a successful, thriving, multi-million-dollar business on YouTube. But when you're bringing a lot of people together under one roof on a nightly basis, it can be a tricky thing because it's very easy to lose sight of the dangers of appealing to the wrong people. The most powerful people in any social system are not the people with the fanciest title or the most money or the fastest car or the best looking. The most powerful people in any social system are the ones who are expressive. I want to just really do a pause on this one because this is an important point for everyone to understand. No matter what social system you're in, whether it is your family or a group of friends or a workplace or a YouTube channel, a YouTube chat, a group on Twitter, it doesn't really matter. In any social system, the most powerful people in that system are the ones who are expressing what they think. The ones who are expressing what they think are the ones who are going to drive the direction of the community. Thank you, TJ. I really appreciate you stopping by. EM, you're welcome here. It's okay to be new to this. If you have questions, please ask. I know there are many mods in the chat that will be happy to answer. So think about in like a workplace, right? If you're in a meeting in a workplace, who are the most powerful people in any room? They're the people who are getting up and saying, I don't like this for reason X, Y, B, and Z. And it's always the annoying ones, right? It's always like there's always someone who speaks up and they're like a negative Nancy in like every effing meeting, every effing one. Jamie, I do not believe that the internet told the truth. I believe that the internet were a bunch of fucking liars. I believe it was all twisted out of context. I've talked about this many, many times on this channel. You are permitted to believe whatever you want, but I believe Eliza very, very strongly because I have not seen one shred of evidence that was not twisted completely out of context or made to be something that it didn't mean. You can believe what you like. I disagree. Anyway, so if you have a group of people and you're in a group of people and maybe there are like 30 of you and you're and 20 of you are generally optimistic. 20 of you are generally happy. You're positive, you're optimistic, or you're ambivalent. Either one is fine. But 10 of you are really, really effing negative. And those 10 people who are really, really, really effing negative are the ones who are constantly speaking up, constantly complaining, constantly expressing their opinions, constantly getting up in a meeting saying, here's all the things that are wrong with the world and all the things that are bad and blah, 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 blah. Those 10 people who are speaking up are going to control the entire group, even though they're a minority in the group. And the reason they're going to control the entire group is because they're the ones speaking up. Exactly, Travis. A much easier way to say this. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you are and this is why throughout the entire time I have been on YouTube, like 3 years now, I have always emphasized that it is your job to speak up. If you want change in the world and you are unwilling to speak that out loud, you are never going to get the change that you want. If you refuse to voice your opinion, you will never get the change that you want because you're not expressing it. You're not demanding it. And therefore, that's your own fault. If you are unwilling to do what is required to get what you want, then you don't really want it that badly. The most powerful people in any social system are the ones who are expressive. They're the ones voicing their opinion through chat, through comments, through DMs, through emails, through making videos, etc. The people who speak up are always more powerful in regard to influencing the direction of the community than the ones who stay silent. This is why the quote unquote silent majority tactics of the political right will always lead to them losing. With rare exception, you cannot remain silent and win. Conversely, if the most toxic people in your audience are I skipped a whole paragraph there because I was blocking someone in the chat. If the most optimistic people in your audience are the most expressive, then your community will be pushed in an optimistic direction. and be able to look on the bright side, see things as an opportunity rather than something to be feared. Christians get shut down. Are you off your nut? I can throw a rock and hit a Christian church. You can walk down the street probably and find a church. Christians dominate every conversation online. Every single one. Do you know how many times I've been canceled by the Christian mob because I refuse to adhere to Christian values because I'm not a Christian? You don't get shut down ever. I'm sorry. Christians are the dominant voices on the conservative right. There are churches on every fucking street corner in every fucking town. What more do you want? Like, no offense, like I'm sure you're a nice lady, but like I can't walk down the street and go to a church in my belief system. Like, Christians cancel me all the time. Don't tell me Christians are poor and oppressed. Christians are not a poor, oppressed minority. I am sorry. That is just bullshit. No, you're still here. Don't worry about it. No, just because. See, this is the problem with fucking Christians. I am telling you something you don't want to hear, which is that Christians are not a poor, oppressed minority. You are being told something you don't want to hear. No one is censoring your speech. No one is shutting down your speech. No one is attacking you because of your beliefs. No one is burning down your churches. No one is trying to legislate you not practicing your religion. I am telling you something you don't want to hear, and you are whining about it because I'm telling you something you don't want to hear. Exactly. They act like you can't say Merry Christmas, but people will still say it. My God. See, we weren't even supposed to talk about Christians today, but if you want to bring up the topic of shitting on Christians, I will do it every day. Christians have a very bad habit of thinking everything has to adhere to their values. Even as a Christian, I see this constantly and it drives me nuts. Exactly. 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 It's the persecution complex. They need it. They need to be persecuted. Anyway. So if the most vocal segment in your audience are generally optimistic, then your audience, your community will generally move in a more optimistic direction. Conversely, if the most toxic people in your audience are the most expressive, then your community will generally be pushed in a toxic direction, closely resembling the hellscape of Twitter. Do you think it's any coincidence that Tim Pool has been trending on Twitter every day for weeks? Have you seen Tim Pool's chat in the last few months? Or his comment section? Or his Twitter replies? Because it's not pretty. And by the way, I barely even follow Tim. The only reason I'm even exposed to this was like, watching the shows about Crowder and Candace Owens and like looking at his Twitter replies that I can't even do anymore because Tim blocked me on Twitter, which is fine, by the way. That's okay. I'm not actually mad about Tim blocking me on Twitter. I was surprised he didn't block me during the whole Don Bulldog thing. But like I have seen like this much of what's going on in Tim's audience, and I'm still able to assess that it is a toxic, 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 toxic hellscape. I'm not suggesting that everyone in those mediums is toxic, but generally the toxic outnumbers the optimistic. Well, EM, that's exactly the point I'm making. Yes. EM says, but is that not the fault of their leader? Tim started this. I 1000% agree with you. This is because of the tactic that Tim used to cultivate his audience. 100%. Tim opened the door for this knowingly or unknowingly when he had Ye on. I think it started way before that, but I don't think that helped. I do think it started way, 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 way before that, though. Something like this might happen if a person spends 2 solid years yelling, "Civil War!" He might attract people who are desperate for a civil war. Those are generally not the most optimistic of folks. Tim's audience got hijacked by its most toxic segment. You are a raging fucking moron if you think people like the quartering want to solve the culture war. The Tim thing is getting blown out. Talk about distraction from the real issues. You just lost a subscriber. I've never even seen you in my chat. I've never seen you in my comments. I have never seen you in my community. So maybe you subscribed like 5 minutes ago to be able to chat out your feelings. Stop causing divide in this community of fighting for freedom. None of you. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I'm a real fucking activist. I work with real fucking activists. You know where real fucking activism happens? Not on YouTube, and not on Twitter, and not even really on the internet. Real activism happens in the real world. Eliza Blue is doing real activism, and the reason that none of you think that she's doing real activism is because she's not tweeting out every single thing that she does. But I know she's doing real activism because she's doing it offline. And I've had multiple conversations with people that she has helped in the real world, but she's done it offline. And she doesn't brag about every single thing that she does. And she doesn't make videos about every single thing that she does. Because that's how real activism works, guys. It's conversations offline that you never hear about. That is how you actually get shit done. You don't spend all day on Twitter. You don't spend all day on YouTube. The quartering isn't going to do anything. The quartering is going to do exactly nothing in the culture war. He is going to accomplish nothing. What the quartering is going to do is he's going to sell coffee. And there's nothing wrong with selling coffee. Like, I hope he makes a lot of money selling coffee. But to say that the quartering is going to solve the culture war, are you a fucking moron? Are you retarded? I mean, I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're a very deeply intelligent person. And I'm just asking hypothetically, because I don't want to be accused of bullying anyone, YouTube. But you are an idiot if you think the quartering is going to be the linchpin to solving the culture war. I'm sorry. He wouldn't know activism if it bit him in the ass. Oh, wait, I got to block that asshole for announcing his departure. Hang on. I took his chat off the screen too soon. I can't find him. Okay. Now he's blocked. Tim's audience got hijacked by its most toxic segment. These people now run the show, and they know they can get Tim to bend to their demands until he doesn't anymore. Tim has to make the decision to walk through the storm the next time it happens to make sure his toxic minority knows who the big swinging dick is. And it wouldn't hurt for him to start making different choices about his approach, cultivate his audience too. Something that he encourages the less toxic elements to speak up and express themselves. He might consider curating his community, implementing a blocking strategy to prevent the toxic elements from taking over. This will cost him money. And this is where the rubber meets the road. Tim, and he may have already made this decision based on the information we have now, but Tim has a decision to make. He can choose money or he can choose integrity. Choose one. You can't choose both. And there was a time before he started cultivating the most toxic audience on the internet. There was a time where he didn't need to choose. He could have made the choice to develop his audience in a way where he was not appealing to the most toxic element of the internet. The audience would have developed more organically, but the problem is it would have taken longer. Tim is in the position that he is in because he took a shortcut, because he said money is more important than integrity. That is how the toxic minority got a foothold into his audience. And by the way, he's not the only community that's done something like this. I've seen this happen in a lot of other places too. And that's why I am so committed to not doing that here. And that will always keep me smaller than someone like Tim Pool. It will always keep me having a smaller channel. It will always keep me having a smaller audience. I am completely fine with that. Well, if you perceive toxicity here, you're welcome to get the fuck out. See, this is what curating the audience looks like, guys. When you have people who are constantly whining, constantly complaining, constantly whining, constantly complaining, show them the door, because they're only going to continue to whine and complain. He just got a timeout. If he wants to come back and stop whining, he's welcome to. Person who I have never seen comment on my chat or my channel, Carlin, I remember you following you from a long time ago. There was a reason why I subbed to you, but this type of content isn't really why I followed you. You had more viewers 2 years ago. Well, the advice I would give to you is number 1, take some personal fucking responsibility, behave like an adult, and if you don't want to watch a video, if it's not your cup of tea, then don't click on it. If you see a giant red thumbnail that says Tim Pool is a coward in really big bold letters, and you make the choice to click on it when you have not been seeing my other content, you have not been involved in the other content, you have not been around for years apparently when I've been doing other content. But this is the one you choose to click on so you can come into my chat and complain. What you have done is not exercised personal responsibility to click on the content that you want to watch and avoid the content that you don't. So that's your fault. Congratulations. Alex Martin, the more and more I hear about humans, the more I think pets are better, people suck, and there is always going to be tribal and too much fighting. Oh God, do I agree with that, Alex Martin? Yes. I 100% agree. I'm just scrolling through the chat, guys. SB, for all Tim's faults, I found your channel through Tim's coverage of your activism years ago. I appreciated you both in your own ways. Well, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. No, I would never do stand-up comedy. Come on. Jaya, I like this, Carlin. She is in her violence age. And by violence, I mean she doesn't give a fuck and is being unapologetically herself. Gotta respect that. Thank you, Jaya. Yes, I mean, exactly. What we should be probably talking about is the UFO that was shot down over Lake Huron. By the way, they shot down some octagon looking thing over a lake. The aliens are here. The aliens are here. And you know what people are more interested in? Fucking Eliza Blue and Tim Pool. And I bet you right now, if I had done a live stream with a giant UFO on, this is the fucking problem with YouTube. If I had done a live stream with a giant UFO on it, I said the aliens have landed, I would have probably half the people watching right now than with the giant red thumbnail that says Tim Pool is a coward. This is what's fucked up about our society. Yes, they shot down a UFO over Lake Huron. They did. They closed the airspace this morning, and it was announced like an hour ago that they'd shot down an octagon-looking thing over the lake. Anyway, let's get back to the article. Because Tim has a choice to make. Tim is either going to choose money or integrity. If Tim cultivated his audience and curated his audience in the same way that I do, that would cost him money, and he wouldn't have been able to expand as rapidly as he did. But it will also help him to regain his integrity, which I do believe is in there somewhere. It's just gotten lost the last few years. Tim has to decide which is more important, money or integrity. Both options require a sacrifice. If he chooses money, fine, nothing wrong with that, but he should plan to spend a lot of time on his knees moving forward. Maybe he has some knee pads from skateboarding that he can use to soften the position. If he chooses integrity, he has to reclaim his audience from the toxic element that's hijacked it, which will cost him money. Tim Pool is perfectly capable of building a media empire. If not, he is pandering to his audience that will cancel him if he doesn't do what they want. Excuse me, I read that wrong. Tim Pool is perfectly capable of building a media empire, but not if he is pandering to an audience that will cancel him if he doesn't do what they want. But he doesn't need to build an empire in order to make a lot of money. He just has to sell his soul and everything he ever claimed to care about. His empire is through the storm. He has to decide how much he wants it. So, my position on this is that, Tim has always said he wants to build this media empire, wants to build this media empire. Well, you can't do that when you are pandering to a mob. You cannot build a business based on pandering to the mob, at least not the type of business he wants to build. And see that guy I blocked earlier, Kate, like he waited out the 5-minute block just to come back and complain. And so now he's been permanently blocked. You gotta listen, man. There's something I respect about people who are such toxic assholes that they only come in chats to complain about things they don't like. They get a timeout for it. They wait out their timeout just to continue complaining about things they don't like. That is the type of element that people like Tim Pool need to expel from their audience. This is the thing that's gotten so many content creators in trouble, is they are beholden to their audience. Now, I love my community. My community is great. My community is possibly one of the most sane, level-headed places on the internet. And it's not because we all agree. We disagree all the time. But my community is the best community on the internet because we aren't toxic fucking assholes. Because I do every single thing I can to repel that sensibility from my community. I don't allow that bullshit to take place in the chat. I don't allow people to insult me. I don't allow people to insult other people in the chat. I don't allow people to whine and complain all day long. They can whine and complain all they like, but they can't do it in my fucking chat. And the reason that I don't allow this stuff to happen in my chat is because the most powerful people in any social system are the ones who are expressive. So I don't care if people watch my videos, as they absolutely do, and then they go and complain about every single thing I say on Twitter. There are people who are hate watching this stream right now. Hi. That will never chat in, will never comment, because they know I'll block their ass if they do, or I've already blocked their ass. But instead, they're clipping every single thing that they can possibly clip to make me look like the most horrible human being on the planet, so they can make videos complaining about me, so they complain about me on Twitter. They are welcome to do all of those things. But you know what they're not doing? They're not bringing toxicity into my community. They are not expressing that toxicity in my community. And because I have actively prevented them from expressing their toxicity in my community, They will never be able to hijack my community in the way that they've hijacked Tim Pool's community. It will never happen. And because of that, I will always have a smaller audience. Because the motivation of people in Tim's chat, people in Nick Ricada's chat, in these unmoderated chats, probably Salty Crackers, probably like the same thing. The motivation of a lot of those people is just to shitpost and shitpost and shitpost and shitpost and shitpost and shitpost and shitpost. That's all they want to do. And listen, I absolutely believe there is a time and a place for shitposting. I shitpost on Twitter all the time. However, if I allowed a minority of people to do nothing but take over my chat with shitposting all day, every day, those people would ultimately end up controlling my entire audience and they would silence every single other person in the audience. She doesn't believe children should be having sex. That is a clip that was taken out of context. It is a libertarian thought experiment. I have covered this multiple times on this channel. She was not advocating for grooming. She was not advocating for pedophilia. She was having a conversation about how to protect children that was taken out of context and twisted. Every single libertarian knows exactly what that conversation was. Eliza's an anarcho-capitalist. She's not a conservative. She's an anarcho-capitalist. She was having a conversation with other fucking anarcho-capitalists about how to protect kids in a world without a government. Anarcho-capitalists do not believe the government should exist. The owner of the podcast that she had that clip from said to Chrissy Mayer, "You took it out of context. That was not what she meant." So you are lied to. Every single person who shared that clip saying that she was advocating for kids to have sex lied to you. They all lied. Every one of them. So you should have questions about the influencers that you learned about that from. Because that was not what that conversation was. And again, I have watch my debunking video of Blair White and you will see the owner of that podcast, his name is Clint Russell, going on Chrissy Mayer's show and explaining to Chrissy Mayer that she was wrong. And Chrissy Mayer didn't want to hear that. So Chrissy Mayer continued to repeat the lie over and over and over and over and over and over and over again because Chrissy Mayer is nothing but an airheaded bimbo who only has her boobs going for her. She has nothing between her ears at all. And she didn't want to hear a more nuanced conversation. And so she just kept lying on the internet because canceling people and destroying people is all that completely unfunny bitch has. And I'm not as angry at you as I am at the people who have told the lie. So I apologize if I come off as being angry at you on that, but I have had to explain that 18 ways from Sunday. And it is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Tim Pool went to paid members chat only as of Friday. Maybe, you know what? Great. That's actually a really smart move. He's going to make a lot of money doing that. But do you know who's going to start paying him money? The toxic element of his chat. It's going to be my guess. I think he's probably doing it to make money. I don't think he's doing it to curate his chat. I think he's probably doing it to make more money. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it'll work out. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Anyway, let's finish up this article and then we can chat. The audience reflects the creator. 2.5 years ago, Tim Pool publicly called me a social justice warrior on Twitter because I questioned the wisdom of bringing a certain toxic guest on his show, allowing him to significantly expand his audience. But here's the irony. Years after this interaction, my audience has never once formed into a woke cancel mob. In fact, when they've tried, and they have, I've put a stop to it very quickly because I don't want that being done in my name. But Tim's audience has formed into a woke cancel mob. Not only did Tim's audience form into a woke cancel mob, but they turned on the very person who created them. The audience reflects the sensibilities of the creator. I have a much smaller audience than Tim, and I always will. But part of the reason is that I have actively curated my audience, preventing the toxic elements from joining it and influencing it with a strictly enforced blocking policy that keeps out the riffraff. I knew the minute that you start letting the toxic and vocal elements in is the minute that you lose control. And I'm going to tell you this, guys. It is very, very, very easy for me to tell when someone shows up in my chat whether or not they're going to be a productive member of my chat or whether or not they're going to be a toxic element of the chat. I maybe get it wrong 1 out of every 50 people. It is mostly extremely easy to tell when you have the toxic shit posters show up that just want to take out their outrage addiction on the internet. And again, I would welcome them to take out their outrage addiction elsewhere. They can tweet to their heart's content. They can go into other unmoderated chats to their heart's content. I don't really care. But you can't allow it to happen in your or in my chat. I can't allow it to happen here because they will take over the chat and they will drive everyone else out. And I want to be able to hear from people who actually want to have nuanced conversations. I want to be able to hear from people who want to have an exchange of ideas. People always say I'm creating an echo chamber. No, not in any way. Because there are a lot of people who consistently disagree in my chat. But you know what they don't do? They don't hurl insults. They don't call me a bitch. They don't call me fat. They don't call me ugly. They don't insult other people in the chat. They don't whine constantly. It's so much nicer. Tim didn't learn this lesson. Or he didn't care. Either way. He purposefully appealed to the widest possible audience, bringing on guest after guest after guest and covering story after story after story that actively encouraged the most toxic element to join. As his audience grew, this small subset gained more power. Yeah, I agree with this, Josie. Oh my God, here we go again with she didn't tell her story when she absolutely did. Eliza Blue has told her story. Jamie, I know you're behind and you'll hear this in about 15 minutes. She told her story. She told the whole story. She told it to Shane Cashman. It was all documented. Anyone who says that Eliza didn't tell her story is lying. They're lying. And so Tim encouraged the most toxic elements of his audience to take over and join. As his audience grew, this small subset gained more power, and here we are. It will be fascinating to watch what Tim does next. Personally, I hope he chooses integrity, but money is a powerful drug. And that's where I ended that essay until right before I went live on this stream. So I said, update. Since this essay was published, Tim Pool has farther bent the knee to the woke cancel mob, proving that, for the moment anyway, he is choosing money over integrity. He removed all 3 parts of Shane Cashman's articles about Eliza Blue, not because Shane got it wrong, but because the audience didn't understand it. And again, this is a screenshot because who knows? This is still live right now on all of the articles. Due to the fact that the gonzo journalism style of this series was misperceived by readers, the series in its entirety has been removed. Tim is not saying, or the person who made this, it's my guess. And again, I haven't talked to anyone. I don't know. I am completely speculating. Yes, they removed all 3. Don't worry, I've got them archived. It's all fine. I am going to speculate that Tim told Cassandra to pull down the articles. Cassandra did it, but she wasn't happy about it, which is why that reads like these weren't pulled down because they're wrong. These were pulled down because you assholes didn't understand. So I'm going to bet you that this is Cassandra's little fuck you to Tim. Again, that's pure speculation. I have no idea. I could be making that up. I could be wrong. But I find it a little funny that the reason that they're saying the articles were pulled down is not that they were wrong. It's not that they had errors, but that the gonzo journalism style of this series was misperceived. What an act of fucking cowardice. Actually, and by the way, if Cassandra really did write that as a fuck you for Tim, my hat's off to Cassandra. Okay, not literally, because I'm keeping it on my head. I don't have my hair done today or anything. Not that I usually do a lot with my hair anyway. But anyway, you know what I mean. But like, honestly, if Cassandra wrote this as a fuck you to Tim, a tip of my hat to you, Cassandra. Because that's fucking great. It's like a little signal to all of us saying, I'm going to tell you what really happened without telling you what really happened. But the internet never forgets, and all three parts of this are still available in the Wayback Machine if you did not have a chance to read Shane Cashman's article. What you want to do, go over to my article on my Substack. You can find it pinned to the top of the chat or on my Substack with the link in the description below, Carlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. All three parts of Shane Cashman's work is archived and available on the Substack. So just because Tim wanted those articles off his website and probably threw a raging fucking hissy fit like a toddler in order to get that to happen, it does not mean those articles are no longer on the internet. And again, I'll say it. I think there probably were problems with part 3, and I kind of thought it when I read it because it didn't really, like, some of the things like didn't really mesh with my understanding, but those things were not in relation to Eliza Blue's story. The things that I thought were off had nothing to do with Eliza Blue's story at all. Oh yeah, Cassandra has nude bondage photos on the internet. I've seen them. I saw them around the time the Jack Murphy stuff came out. There are things that you can never unsee. She's gotten married since then. People should give her some slack. Anyway, Tim Pool has fallen to the woke mob. As long as he continues on this path, we cannot trust a single word he says. He has told us his highest priority is avoiding cancellation, not telling the truth. And it's too bad. And I do mean that. It's too bad. Tim got canceled by his own audience. He bent the knee to his audience once, and then he really bent over and took it up the ass when he removed those articles. Just because you morons don't understand the type of journalism that Shane Cashman was doing, probably because you really haven't read a book in your life, doesn't mean he wasn't the right person to write those articles. I think he was exactly the right person to write those articles. Yeah, like, it is mind-boggling to me how few people have actually read Hunter S. Thompson. Like, people who are, and this is part of the problem that Tim has fucking created for himself. He wasn't close to her. They didn't really know each other. He wasn't close to her. You idiots assume that just because someone is on the same show with someone and they say, I love your work too. You assume that they're best friends. They weren't friends. They barely knew each other. They were on a show once together. That doesn't make them best friends. That doesn't mean he was close to her. It's all bullshit. It was a lie that was made up by influencers on the internet to lie to you. It is so frustrating to me. And this is part of the problem with this entire situation is people have listened to horrible people on the internet who have lied to them over and I've been saying this about conservative influencers for damn near 2 years now. They lie to you over and 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 over again. You're not being objective. You're lying. You're spreading a smear campaign. Congratulations. You were fooled by someone who lied to you, and now you're continuing to spread lies on the internet because you don't listen to what people say. Conservative influencers have created this problem because they lie to their audiences over and over and over and over and over again. And then their audiences don't know what the truth is. And so then they spread those lies all over the internet like they're true because they don't ever go to the source. And were you actually friends with them? No, I wasn't. Just because you were on a show with someone doesn't make you friends. I've been on lots of shows with lots of people. I wouldn't say I'm friends with, well, no, that's not true. I am friends with some of them, but most of them I am not friends with at all. And do you know what happens, guys, when you go on those shows? You don't talk at all beforehand. You start the show and then everyone puts on their best face for the show. And everyone goes, I love your work. No, I love your work. You're so great. No, you're so great. And then at the end of the show, you all leave and you don't talk to each other again. That's what happens when you go on those shows. I think that Sydney Watson is legit. There are some people who are not raging grifters in this space. I think she is actually one of them. So in this whole Eliza Blue thing, which I have covered extensively on my channel, I have debunked all of the lies, which, by the way, are not actually hard to spot when you're looking for them. They're not hard to spot. I do think part 3 was rushed. I do think that's true. But that's no excuse for pulling down the other 2 parts. Well, it was part of a coordinated smear campaign. The fact that conservative media has handed themselves over to the likes of Brittany Venti and The Quartering and Chrissy Mayer is disgusting. It is disgusting. It's like, could you losers want to lose any more than you already wanted to lose? I don't mean any offense to people who live in trailer parks with what I'm about to say, because I've known some very nice people in my life who've lived in trailer parks, so I'm not making a slight against people who live in trailer parks. But Brittany Venti and Chrissy Mayer and The Quartering are the fucking trailer park trash of the fucking internet. And I don't think I'm exaggerating by saying that. They are trailer park trash. Again, my best friend growing up lived in a trailer. I'm not shitting on people generally who lived in trailers. There are some trailers that are very nice. There are actually some trailers that are really effing nice these days. There really are. I'm talking about the stereotype of what it represents. Perhaps it's not the best example. I can't think of another better one, though. We're talking about the lowest of the low of the most toxic human beings on the planet. We're talking about dumb, completely devoid of all nuance, completely devoid of any ability to have an intelligent conversation. And these are the people who do nothing all day except complain. This is mass genocide. This is exactly what it is. Thank you. That is what I'm looking for. Low budget content creators. And I'm not talking about budget as in real live money. I'm talking as in the value that they contribute. Bottom feeder creators. Exactly. Exactly. My friend used to call them the armpit of humanity. Exactly. That's who these people are. Low barrier also. Yes. So those are much better than the example I made. Again, no offense to anyone who lives in a trailer park. No offense. Like, I really. Yes. They are the fucking Jerry Springer of the internet. That is EM. Exactly. These people are the Jerry Springer of the internet. Would you trust anyone on the Jerry Springer show? Like, if you, I don't like, do people even know what this is anymore? I'm asking a serious question. Do people even know what the Jerry Springer show is anymore? Because I used to watch it every day. I did. I particularly liked the Jerry Springer shows where they had like the racist kids on because I thought that that was like just like the most cringe, awful content. Yeah, see, average person doesn't even know who Jerry Springer is. Average person, here's what you need to do. I'm going to go offline pretty soon because I'm losing my voice. And what I need you to do when this stream is over is I need you to Google or like search on YouTube old episodes of the Jerry Springer show, and then you will understand. You will understand what we're talking about. Because the Quartering and Chrissy Mayer and Brittany Venti, they are the Jerry Springer show, the Jerry Springer show guests of the internet. They are the tabloid that you get at the supermarket. You're not supposed to believe the tabloid. It's like the Weekly World fucking News. The Weekly World News was great. I used to have a subscription to the Weekly World News. I loved the Weekly World News. They had the best stories, but I knew when I was reading the Weekly World News that it was all a fiction. It was all created. It wasn't real. It was just stories to entertain you. Yes, they do. And I already discussed this. And they always will have bigger followings than me. You want to know why, Nick T? Because there are a lot of fucking retards on the internet. And there are a lot of people that don't have Jerry Springer to watch anymore. And so they gravitate to people like Chrissy Mayer and Brittany Venti and the Quartering because they don't have Jerry Springer to watch anymore. Or maybe they can't afford the latest internet tabloid or the latest tabloid out of the supermarket checkout aisle. Maybe they can't afford it because generally speaking, they're the lowest human beings on the planet. And so they probably don't make much money, which again, no shade on people who don't make money, but you can watch Chrissy Mayer and her tits for free. So of course, they're always going to have bigger followings than me. Because I'm about 8,000 times smarter than all three of them put together. And my audience is about 8,000 times smarter than all of their audiences put together. And it is a more niche group. And I make no apologies at all in any way. If people want to go watch Content House, they can go watch Content House and watch Chrissy Mayer fall over drunk after drinking a Coors Light. They're welcome to do that. That will always be entertaining to some people. God, I'm just looking in the chat, guys. We're just chatting now. But seriously, if you've never seen the Jerry Springer show, that's what we're talking about. I'm so glad someone made that point. God, the Weekly World News was great, wasn't it, Gloria? Fucking Bat Boy. Come on. The Weekly World News had better writing than most of the people on the internet. How inventive. Exactly. Jenny's getting inky with it. Jerry Springer had guests like my husband got my singer pregnant, or if I don't know my father, my brother is the father, or I don't know if my husband or my brother is the father of my baby. This is exactly the type of content that Chrissy Mayer does. Or like Maury, where like every other Maury episode would be like, I've slept with 16 men and I don't know who's the father of my child. I mean, come on, man. Sally Jesse, though. Sally Jesse was the best. Exactly. You are not the father. Sally Jesse was the best. Sally there was like a Roku channel for like a short period of time that had like every old Sally Jesse episode on it, and I spent days when I first found this Roku channel. I don't know if it's up now or it might be called something else, but like I spent days like reliving every single Jesse episode ever. I used to watch Sally Jesse with my grandmother. Watched her every day. Oh god, Tony, you dated a girl that was on Wilkos? Wilkos was Jerry Springer's security guard, and then he got his own offshoot trash TV show. Listen, it is fine to watch YouTube trash. It's fine to watch YouTube trash. It is. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to have moments where you're doing. I have a whole show dedicated to this. It's called Knitwits, where I knit and I watch internet trash. And it's not always internet trash, but a lot of times it's internet trash. There's nothing wrong with watching internet trash, all right? But you have to be clear and understand the difference between internet trash and real life. You know, I used to have a pair of glasses. These are actually red. You can't really see it. But I used to have a pair that were like actually bigger and also red. I need to go get I've had these glasses for like 8 years. I need to go get another pair of glasses. Like I probably need to get my eyes checked too if I'm honest about it. Um, so maybe I will get a pair of red glasses. Support cord? Is that like child support? I don't know what that was, Jaya. Sin watched The Love Boat. Yeah, Judge Judy. Judge Judy was great. Come on. So it's okay to the conclusions that we're coming to is that it is perfectly fine to watch internet trash like Chrissy Mayer and The Quartering and Brittany Venti, all trash. Perfectly fine to watch them, perfectly fine to like them, as long as you understand that these are not people that you should be taking life advice and guidance from because they're raging fucking morons. I mean, if you want to take advice and guidance from them, that's fine. Like, it's your life, man. Live your life the way you choose. I, as well as I think many other people in my community, would probably tell you that that is not the best idea you've ever had, and you're going to experience negative consequences if you do those things. There are a lot of great content creators on the internet, guys. There are. And you don't have to like me. I am someone that you either like or you hate. All right. There is no in between with me. There is no one in the universe that is ambivalent about me. You either like me or you hate me, and that is it. So there are a lot of people who hate me. I am not everyone's cup of tea, and I don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. But if I am not your particular cup of tea, then go find someone else that at least has life experience, that didn't grow up wanting to be an entertainer, that didn't grow up on YouTube. By the way, growing up on YouTube can really fuck a person up. Go listen to people who have actually done things in the real world and understand that they aren't always going to have receipts for things they've done in the real world, because doing things in the real world oftentimes means you're doing things in the real world. You're not living for Twitter or the internet or to convince Twitter or to convince the internet. I mean, I usually scare people away before they have the chance to develop an acquired taste to me. I yell at them or say something they don't like and they get all fragile and then they act out in my chat and then I block them anyway. Michelle says, "I like that I like that I think that I can disagree and it won't trigger a meltdown because I'm not repeating your thoughts back to you." I mean, yeah. All right. That's all I really have to say. I had a lot of feelings about Tim Pool taking those articles down. And listen, man, if I am proven to be wrong, because it is entirely possible that maybe Shane Cashman took those articles down. Maybe Cassandra took those articles down. Maybe we will learn in the coming days or weeks or months that those articles were all filled with errors and we were all snowed. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen. I really, really, really don't think that's going to happen. But I could be wrong. And so if we learn in the future that those articles were pulled down other reasons than Tim Pool having a fucking hissy fit, I will retract everything. I will do a whole stream saying, I'm wrong. Mea culpa. Tim Pool is not a coward. I was wrong. I really will. People who have been on my stream know that I don't get things wrong often. But when I do get things wrong, I admit that I get things wrong. Because there's nothing wrong with being wrong every once in a while. No person on earth is ever going to be right 100% of the time. We should normalize admitting when we're wrong. The world would be a much better place if we normalized admitting when we get things wrong. So if I'm wrong, I'll say it. And I'll own it. Fine. But I don't think I'm wrong. I really don't think I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong at all. Exactly, Andrew. Some of the best things you can do in the real world are done voluntarily and without notoriety or receipt. So, I can't believe it's 9:30. I can't believe I've been streaming for 2 hours. I have a newsletter to write, guys. Please make sure you go and subscribe to my Substack. I don't write about Tim Pool every day. But what I am going to be doing with a lot of my content, let me just there you go. Now, I on my Substack, I cover all sorts of unwoke content. I try to use when I do try to like I'm trying this new thing where I am using like internet culture content in order to teach people different lessons, in order to teach people about how the woke left operates. So the article we just read today is mostly not about Tim Pool at all, but I'm using Tim Pool as an example to teach concepts to people. But I do cover a lot of crazy unwoke content. Actually, one of the craziest things I covered this past week was, did you know they're trying to gestate babies in the bodies of brain dead women? I cover some of the most dystopian shit on the internet. A lot of the stories in my Substack, I will be the only person bringing you this story or one of very few people bringing you this story. So I try to do unique content. I try to show you the real underbelly of the world. I'm trying to let people know like what they need to know about what's going on in the schools, what's going on in organizations, what the woke left is up to, how to understand the woke left, etc., etc., etc. So, if you want to subscribe to my Substack, you can subscribe for free. If you want to support the work I'm doing, I do have a challenge of getting 50 new paid supporters in my Substack this month, and we're already at like 27. So we're actually already halfway over the halfway point, and we're not even halfway through the month yet, which is really, really great. So I still need, what do I need? Like 23 more. If you have $5 a month, $50 a year, you want to help me keep this site free for everyone. Um, Sign up as a paid member. $5 a month, $50 a year. You can give more if you want to. If you don't want to sign up on Substack, that's cool, man. You can head over to activilyunwoke.com/support. You can sign up as a member of my locals community. You can sign up as a member of my Patreon. You can also make a one-time gift. And but I'm just making a really concerted effort to try to grow my base of support on my Substack right now, because I think that my Substack is going to be my primary content, my content hub moving forward. I mean, people, oh, Shane tweeted and stands by his work. Exactly, because Tim Pool is a fucking coward and he told him to take it down. That's why it's down. So fun fact, so people are talking about how like I don't get as many views on here as I used to. Well, guess what? I get 5 to 10 times the views on Substack that I get on YouTube every single day. 5 to 10 times the views on Substack that I get on YouTube. The power of the written word never ceases to amaze me. So I'm still going to do videos and stuff like that. Obviously, I love YouTube. I love my YouTube community. But Substack's going to be my primary home moving forward, and that's just going to be the way it goes. All right, guys. Thank you for spending some time with me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me yell and rant and get some feelings off of my chest. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m., guys. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Happy Super Bowl Sunday if that's your thing. I hope whatever team you're rooting for wins. I have no idea what's going on because I don't watch football. But take care. Have a great rest of your day.